I'm Thierry ARYS RUIZ. I'm the founder of TARCO International, and Unveiled.io is the flagship project of TARCO. So I come from the commodity trading background. That's my passion. That's what I love. But then came the blockchain, and of course now I'm dedicated to those two things. So what is my topic today is decentralization of government and money. We're going to do it in 3 simple steps. One is the pillars of society, 2 is the taxonomy of money, and 3 is the decentralized organic consensus. What's the strategy and the vision, and what's our end goal? Well, it's basically to solve society's problem. Let's try to do it in 3 simple steps. The first one is to redefine the 2 institutional pillars of society. The second is to redefine the financial system. And the third one is move society towards a decentralized organic consensus. What's the end goal? What are we trying to achieve? Well, shift the population upwards in the Maslow pyramid, essentially so that everyone can be better off. Let's go through 2 of the problems. How can we create a robust financial architecture? And here the proposition is to reform the financial infrastructure from the ground. Let's restart all together and provide a payment solution that can build the bedrock of an anti-fragile system. And how can we move from centralized governance into decentralized consensus? And now we're using the idea behind the blockchain consensus in order to build society around it. And so here is the systemic migration of governments and money, in this sense, into a distributed ledger technology type of not only philosophy, but way of handling things. So that's the proposition. The big problem with the financial system is fractional reserves. What this does, essentially, is it increases the leverage, and it increases the amount of debt, and ultimately, the result is a very big monetary mass. And you see basically financial experimentation from central banks as well into things like quantitative easing, negative interest rates, asset purchases. But all of this, as a result, really has quite an impact. So what are the tools left? Well, most of the times, and most of the academics and people who've been on the Keynesian side of economics, they've usually came up with more of the same, essentially. And more of the same, well, in my view and a lot of other people's view, will only increase the moral hazard and just produce more problems than solutions in the end. Gold has been money for thousands of years. So all we do is take the things that work and then transform them into today's society. But what we're trying to achieve here is to essentially go back to the gold standard and create a true alternative to fiat. What is fiat? Is a money that is not backed by anything. And now we go back to Satoshi Nakamoto and his ideas. We're trying to create an alternative to fiat. But a true alternative to fiat can only be an alternative if it's backed by something, meaning there is intrinsic value. And I think, and this is my personal opinion, that if Satoshi could have done that, he would have. Now think about what Bitcoin is. And Bitcoin is on the right-hand side. It's a peer-to-peer cash electronic system. In this case, that is also outside of the public realm. So you see Bitcoin there. Now we add another factor on this, which is the convertibility, right? And we are positioned there, meaning it's a peer-to-peer cash electronic system, but that is not within the public realm, meaning it's not run by the government. Going back to what money is, gold has been money for thousands of years. Okay, you go back 3,000 years ago. And why is it gold? Well, because it's the only material element that is immutable within time. In other words, it was immutable before immutable was cool. All right? And gold is anti-fragile because anti-fragile means that the more you test it, the more it becomes robust. The more you test gold as a form of money, the more it comes back and it gets stronger. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that crypto is not technologically stress resistant. So what that means is there is better technology that will be coming up. One of the use cases is the emerging economies. All right, so it's banking the unbanked. And this is not only my coin, this is tons of other coins. And I think this is what the whole crypto society is trying to achieve anyways. The only thing is we're trying to do a stable coin so that there's no volatility. So what does that mean? That the people in Venezuela or the people in Turkey right now, they can't have an alternative to the current money system. Even the people in Benin. And then you have the transparency of pricing, meaning you price everything in gold and silver. Everyone knows what the price of gold and silver is. So that means you don't need to have FX rate. Why would you change to another currency? So you will see people in one country saying, well, my artisanal good is a chair, and I sell it for 2 Agave silver tokens, and someone else in Europe will say, well, my chair, I sell it for 4 Agave tokens, so who is more competitive, right? This allows actually emerging markets to trade worldwide. Some of these people don't have a bank account. There's 2 billion people who are unbanked. It basically opens an alternative financial system for them. We're going to use this to switch into the governance side of things. So the governance side of things is, the problem here is populism, right? The problem here is stuff for free, right? And stuff for free, I can give you stuff for free if I take debt. And if I take debt, well, most of the times, if you in your personal life take debt, and you take too much of it, then you basically become a prisoner of your debt. And it's just the same thing for countries. What is the alternative to that? Well, the alternative to that is more responsibility. And also, what's the thing with the blockchain? Well, it's more transparency. And more transparency in government, that means less corruption. What is the unique selling point of Switzerland? Well, it's direct democracy. Okay, so if you go to school in Switzerland, you learn that the executive power executes. They're employees, they're government employees, and they're to the service of the people. That's what they should be. You see, the legislative power is outside the executive power. The legislative power is who makes the laws, and the laws are proposed and voted by the people, for the people. That's what sovereignty means, right? And then you have the enforcement of that. And the enforcement of that is the judiciary process. So what are we trying to achieve with Meritocracy.ngo? And it will be launched next week. So meritocracy is the idea that you build a democratic system where the best ideas win. And you are judged on the basis of merit and not on the basis of your political clout. So voluntarism is one big part. You can only engage into a contract by free will. If you put in the platform of proposing the laws, the costs on the federal level, on the cantonal level, and on the taxpayer level, then you know what you're paying for. And I encourage everyone in their countries to ask the governments, how much am I paying for the service you're providing? And you'll be surprised about the amount of money that is wasted throughout the process. What is this decentralized organic consensus? It's trying to codify the laws of nature, knowing that we don't know anything about them. So you need to have the flexibility so that the system can organically grow and evolve, right? I think one of the things we need to do is precisely that, define our principles as society, and to be as decentralized as possible so that we don't end up with some sort of a dictatorship, and have some sort of a constitutional setup so that there is certain laws we cannot break. For example, free will and the fact that voluntarism should prevail, so that we don't imprison people against their will into making choices that they don't want to make. So that's it. That's what I was trying to convey today. And I will just finish with our motto, which is, we shall stand on principle, or we shall not stand at all. Thank you very much.